So when I had to become gluten-free, my biggest bummer at Thanksgiving, I didn't care about the stuffing, I didn't care about the rolls, the green bean casserole. Now with this gluten-free version, you can have it again. It's completely made from scratch in under an hour, but no weird ingredients. I'm gonna show you how. So first we're gonna start with our version of condensed cream of mushroom soup because you cannot use the mushroom soup at stores. It has wheat flour in it. So we're gonna start with our mushrooms. You need 8 ounces of mushrooms. Generally, I just use white button mushrooms, but today, these baby Bellas were really calling my name, so that's what I'm gonna use. You just want to chop them up, so just wash them, slice them, and then as they cook down, they will get smaller, but just kinda chop them into large pieces. So start off with 3 tablespoons of butter, just melt that in a pan, and then add your chopped mushrooms to that. You will also need 2 cloves of minced garlic, and this is like my best friend in the kitchen. I honestly never mince garlic. I just grab this garlic paste and use that. And I'm just gonna eyeball that. That looks like 2 to me. Mushrooms take a little long to cook down. I would say they will cook for probably about 5 to 7 minutes. What's gonna happen is they're gonna release a lot of moisture, and then eventually that moisture will cook off, and that's when you're good. Now that the moisture is almost cooked off, I'm going to add my seasonings to this. A 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, an 1/8 teaspoon of pepper. Give that a stir. To thicken the soup, we need a cup of gluten-free broth. I'm using chicken broth, but veggie broth works too. And then 4 tablespoons of cornstarch. So I'm just gonna add that to that and then just whisk that to combine until all the lumps are gone. Now this is gonna thicken up really quick. So you wanna have your spoon ready, and as you're dumping it in, just stir it continuously, and it's going to become a really thick sauce. Once you have a really alarming thick mixture, then just add a 1/2 cup of milk to this, and it'll just kind of break apart the soup a little bit so it's stirrable in your casserole. And that just heats for about a minute longer, and then we're done. This is the point where if you want to do this as a make-ahead recipe, you can cool this soup completely and store it in a glass jar for about 3 days before you use it in your casserole. For this recipe, I make my own French fried onions. They are so easy. I have a full recipe video on it and a link for the recipe, which I'll include below. You just coat them in buttermilk, shake them up in a bag, drop them in oil and fry, and they are better than anything you'll find in the store and super easy. So I highly recommend making these, and you can make these up to 2 to 3 days ahead of time, and then when you're ready to assemble, you have them ready and waiting. So now we're just ready to assemble everything. This is the easiest part. So I have about 20 ounces of green beans, which was 2 bags of frozen that I just briefly steamed. You can also use 3 cans of canned green beans as well, or you can cook fresh. Then I have a cup of cheddar cheese, which it's optional, but it's Thanksgiving, so we're just going for broke here. A 1/2 cup of milk, a 1/4 teaspoon of seasoned salt, an 1/8 teaspoon of pepper, a teaspoon of soy sauce. This is something that you really want to make sure you read your label and make sure it's gluten-free. I use LaChoy brand, which is gluten-free. The other thing you could swap in here is a gluten-free Worcestershire sauce. Then to this, we're going to add our cream of mushroom soup that we just whipped up and a 1/2 cup of the French fried onions. I'm just gonna eyeball that. Put some in the casserole and then the rest go on top. And then just stir that all to combine. All right, we're gonna just transfer all of that into a 2-quart baking dish, and then just top that with your French fried onions. If you want a double recipe of this, you can double all the ingredients, and then I would bake it in a 9 by 13 inch pan. This is going to bake in a 350 oven for about 30 to 40 minutes. You're looking for it to be nice and hot and bubbly throughout. So as I mentioned before, this can be made ahead of time for Thanksgiving or Christmas or any holiday. You just make the soup ahead of time, Put it in the fridge. When it's time to combine all the ingredients together, you may have to warm it slightly, not to heat it up, just so it's stirrable again to mix with the green beans and the cheese and all the other yumminess in the casserole. So I hope this brings back some memories of your Thanksgivings when you were growing up. Let me know in the comments below if you're making it for yourself or for a loved one. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video.